Class 8 biology, the very first chapter that you have is transport of food and minerals in plants. But before that, let's go to certain basics, that is biology or life sciences. What is it? It is the study of life, living beings. That's biology. You have two different groups in this or divisions, that is botany, study of plants, zoology, study of animals. Besides that, for making our study convenience, we also have another group or a part called as microbiology, in which we study all about living things, that is animals and plants, which are not seen by our naked eyes. Then we have level of organization. As you know, it starts with atoms, cells, then you have tissues. That is what we are going to study more about in this particular chapter, tissues, the tissue level of organization. Especially in plants, we have already studied in our previous classes the basics of plant tissue. They are basically divided into two groups, that is meristems or meristematic tissues. There are three types. That is, you have apical meristem, lateral meristem, and intercalary meristem. Right? These constitute of ever dividing cells. That is, the cells in this, they keep on dividing. The second that you have is permanent tissues. Now in this also you have divisions. You have three divisions. That is protective tissues, supporting tissues, and then you have conducting tissues. In this, you have already studied there are two types, epidermis and cortex. Whereas here you have three, parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. These also comes under simple permanent tissues, whereas the conducting tissues, they come under complex but permanent tissues. Here you have only two, that is xylem and phloem. Xylem, as you know, is basically responsible for absorption of water and minerals from the soil through the root, stem, and it transports that to the leaves, where it has been used for the process of photosynthesis. And phloem, it is responsible for translocation or transportation or conduction of the prepared organic food, especially in the form of sugars and glucose, to all the other non-green parts of the plant. Right? Now we will be studying the main functions of conducting tissues, the different cells it comprises of. Xylem is composed of four different different type of cells. They are mainly xylem vessels, xylem petals, xylem fibers, and xylem parenchyma. Now in these also, only xylem parenchyma, that is a living structure. Whereas the other three are non-living. In the same way, you have phylum. Here also you have four types of different cells that constitute or make up this phylum tissues. You have this phylum vessels, then you have its companion cells, phylum fibers, and finally phylum parenchyma. Here you have only this phylum fibers, which is a non-living structure. Whereas the others are living structures. Now, what are the conditions when we can say a particular structure is a living structure or a living cell? It needs to have three constraints. That is, one is the outer coverage. In plant cells, you have cell wall. In animal cells, you have cell membrane. Then you have cytoplasm, which is all filled around the nucleus, and the nucleus, which controls all the activities of that particular cell. So this is what it is. And the tissue, what is the tissue? Tissue is a group of cells with similar structure and they perform a similar function. That's what is called as a tissue. So here we have xylem as a tissue. Why? Because you have so many different kind of cells that constitutes xylem. Same way, phylum, that also has four different types of cells and that constitutes phylum tissues, and that is a complex permanent tissue. The basic function of this is to conduct water and minerals from the roots to the leaves for photosynthesis, and the prepared food has to be sent to different parts, that is non-green parts of the plant, to carry out all different functions. Now, xylem vessels. Let us see to the xylem vessels. You have the diagram in your book, but still, let me draw this for you. Now, as you see the structure of xylem vessels, you can see it is broader at the top and narrow in the beginning. These are spirally shaped vertical structures. Thick walled, long and tubular shape, means tube like, right? And the basic function that this has is it allows water and minerals mixed up together, they rise against the force of gravity from the stem to the different parts of the plant, that is leaves basically. If we see to the structure of phylum, the structure that is given in your book is a combined, all the cells combined together, they have given you phylum, but I am separating these structures to make it very simple. Right. So this is a living structure, as I have already told, and thin walled, cylindrical in shape. As you see, it is a continuous channel. It is continuous. That is one above another. One above another. We have this. So we call this as a continuous channel. But the end walls are perforated. These are the end walls. These are perforated. That means it has certain holes in it. So we call this as perforated. And because of this, they are also called as sieve plates. They are also called as sieve plates. Right. So that is a living structure. Now, what is the function of this? This transports the prepared food by the leaves to all the other parts of the plant. That is the basic function of this. It helps in the downward movement of the food from leaves to the different part of the plant. The next structure that we have, or the cell that we have in both the categories, that is xylem and phylum. Is xylem tritiates and companion cells. Right? These are non-living structures. And if we see to the diagram, these are bits, long and elongated. Long and elongated structures. You have pits in this. What are pits? These are the minute openings in the secondary cell walls, and it allows the water and nutrients from one cell to another. It helps in the linking water uptake from roots to leaves for transpiration as well as photosynthesis. And the general function of xylem, as you already know, that is transport of water and minerals from the roots to the different parts of the plant body. Now you have the companion cell. The previous diagram that you already have seen, this companion cells you have just besides the phylum vessels. And these are the companion cells. These are the companion cells. Now these are also elongated, as you see, lengthwise, elongated oval shaped structure joined in the phylum vessels. It helps sieve tubes in loading and unloading of organic food material. Function: loading and unloading of organic food material. So that was the second part that you had, was xylem spiracetes and companion cells. Let us see to the third type of cell in both the categories. Xylem fibers. And here you have the phylum fibers. Right, let me draw this simple structure for you. These also structurally are elongated and narrow tube-like structures, but thin walled. Right? Non-living structures. Right? Their main function is to provide mechanical support. And is found in between brackets and xylem. Right? Vessels. As it is found between brackets and xylem vessels, it provides mechanical support to the plant tissues, or rather the plant. And then you have the phylum fiber, which is a dead one, dead structure. And if you see to the previous diagrams, this is the particular location of phylum fibers. As it is dead, it is placed between these two structures. This also helps or provides strength to the plant. The last structure that you have, or the last type of cell that you have in both the categories, is xylem parenchyma. And here you have this phylum parenchyma. Right? Now, here the function of xylem parenchyma is storage, and it is the only living cell of xylem tissue. As it is a living one, it needs to have three structures, as I said earlier, that is nucleus, cell wall and cytoplasm. The phylum Parenchyma is also a living structure. And if we see to this, we have already drawn the earlier diagram. Let me draw that diagram again. These are present here. These are present here towards the side. As it is a living structure, obviously it needs to have the three parts, that is nucleus, cytoplasm and the cell wall. Main function is storage. So this was the basic difference or the comparison between the two important tissues, that is xylem tissues and phylum tissues, in the conducting tissues, and they play a major role in the transportation of water and minerals, upward transportation till the leaves and all the non-green parts of the plant, and the food prepared during photosynthesis is being sent downwards to all the new non-green parts of the plant through phylum. Now, the next topic that we have is transport of water and minerals in plants. This was all structure that we studied. Transportation of water and minerals in plants. There are basically three steps. It involves three steps. That is, first is absorption. Of water and minerals by individual cells. Then, in this, water and minerals that has been absorbed by the individual cells, this is the first step involved in this. We will be focusing more on this today. The structure that take parts in absorption of water and minerals is the root hair. Now this root hair, what exactly it is? It is the extension of epidermal cell of the root. What is the root hair? It is the extension of epidermal cell of the root. It is covered with very thin semi-permeable membrane. It is covered with semi-permeable membrane. Now what is the semi-permeable membrane? A semi-permeable membrane is a structure, an elastic structure, which allows only certain molecules to pass through it. Only certain molecules to pass through it, and it is filled. This root hair is filled with the vacuole of the root hair is filled with cell sap. What is cell sap? It is a watery substance which comprises of water along with minerals and ions. Right? Now, for this particular absorption of water and minerals by individual cells, which takes place through the root hairs, they have certain adaptations which help in performing these functions. Now, what are those adaptations? We will focus on those adaptations. That is, the very first thing that you have is semi-permeable membrane. As I said, semi-permeable membrane allows certain things to pass through it. Selectively allows, and this is present besides the cell wall, present besides the then second you have the cell sap. Third you have the large vacuole. And fourth, enormous number of root hairs. Enormous number means many in numbers, too many in numbers. Now cell sap is the watery liquid which has more concentration of minerals and iron, this being larger than the cell sap, okay. And the third that you have is large vacuole. Large vacuole means it can accommodate or store more amount of cell sap in it. And the root hairs, as more the number of root hairs, more is the surface area, and therefore more is the absorption of water and minerals. And finally, one more adaptation, all because of this you have the root pressure, which is also called as initial pushing force. Fifth one, right. So these were the 5 basic adaptations that you have for absorption of water and minerals from the roots to the different parts of the plant. Now, if you see the different methods of adaptation, this is a very important topic that you have. Different methods of absorption. The very first method that you have is diffusion. Now, what is diffusion? Diffusion is basically movement of molecules or ions from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. What is more important in this is, it is also called as passive transport. Right? Now for understanding diffusion, as when you light up an instinct stick, that is agarbatti, and you are in the another corner of the room, you can see or you can smell that fragrance of that instinct stick. Why it is so? Because the molecules, the concentration of molecules in that instinct stick was too high, that is a region of higher concentration, to, as it disperses, diffuses with the atmosphere and it reaches to the other end of the room wherein you can smell that fragrance. This is what is called as diffusion. Another example to show you is, you all must have used this, body dew or so, or any kind of scent, and as you press this, what is happening? You can feel that fragrance, but when it was closed, when it was not been pressed, the molecules, which is at a higher concentration here, it is packed, and as you ease out the pressure, what is happening? That molecule is spreading. That is, it is diffusing with the molecules of air in the atmosphere, and it reaches to all the other parts of the room, or it reaches as far as it can. So this is basically diffusion from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. Now the second that you have is osmosis. One more thing here. Here you don't require any semi-permeable membrane. No semi-permeable membrane is required. But diffusion, see, osmosis, not diffusion, osmosis, this is almost the same. That is, here also you have the movement of molecules or ions from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration, but it has to go through or pass through a semi-permeable membrane only. So this is what is called as osmosis. Right? Here, now let us, you have an activity in your book, that is potato osmoscope. Potato osmoscope, that will demonstrate the process of osmosis. For making you understand, I have just brought this peeled potato. What you need to take is a peeled potato, then cut and make it flat from both the ends. I have cut this and made this flat from both the ends, and make a deep insertion or a hole in the potato. As you can see in this, you have a hole here. So this is a potato which has been made this way, and this will work as a potato osmoscope, and it will demonstrate the process of osmosis. What you need to do is, you'll have to take a beaker, right? And in the beaker you'll have to place this, but before placing you can fill a 20% sugar solution. A 20% sugar solution. Mark the level of the sugar solution. Let us assume that we have marked the level of the sugar solution, initial level. Sugar solution is inside this cavity of the potato, and we have water in this beaker. Then you are placing this potato osmoscope in this. Water has to be filled in such a way that it does not, flow over the potato. It needs to be below that. And then you place this setup for 2 to 3 hours. What you will see is, after 2 to 3 hours, the level of the sugar solution that was filled inside this cavity has risen. Mark that level. Let us assume that the level that rose up after 2 to 3 hours is the second one, the upper one. What it proves? It proves that the water molecules, the solvent, from a region of higher concentration, that is outside the potato, in the beaker, moves inside the potato. It moves inside the potato. Here, the potato cells, they act as semi-permeable membrane. Right? So this will prove the process of osmosis. Now, the third that you have is active transport. What do you have? Active right. Now here the transport of molecules and ions from a region, it is against the concentration gradient. Here energy is being used. And ions Let us assume potassium ions, sodium ions, calcium ions or so. Alright. Transport of molecules and ions against the concentrated gradient by using energy. So this is the unique feature of active transport wherein energy is being used. Now what exactly is the against the concentration gradient? Here, as you know that the concentration of water in the soil is less as compared to the cell sap that you have in the roots. So it is opposite. It is opposite from the movement of molecules from a lower concentration into the cell sap, which is already at a higher concentration, and thereby energy is being used in doing so. So we call it as active transport. Well, I think now these 3 points are very, very important for absorption. And I think that should be enough. Please do revise whatever is being taught and try to solve the question and answer in the exercise.